ABC General Hospital spoilers show that Alexis tried to shake off the uneasy feeling she got after leaving Drew's the hospital room, but the memory of his quick nervous blinking stuck in her mind like a shadow she just couldn't shake. At first, she told herself it was nothing more than a simple reflex, just a twitch happening without meaning because of his condition. The harder she tried to ignore it, the clearer those moments kept playing over in her head. She could still remember how his eyes stayed fixed on hers, the raw intensity shining through, and the urgency in every blink. It felt like his whole being was focused on just one way to communicate, and he was using every bit of strength left in him to get through to her, to help her grasp something she had been too scared to see. When Alexis got back home that night, she couldn't fool herself into thinking those blinks were just random anymore. She felt deep down that Drew was reaching out, using the only way he still could to get through to her. The thought kept nagging at her. She kept going over the sequence in her mind, timing the rhythm, noticing how the parts fit together and repeated. Willow said one blink meant yes and two blinks meant no. What if that rule didn't quite cut it? What if Drew had gone for something a lot more clever? Something only someone with survival training would think of. The idea of Morse code started to form in her mind. At first just a faint thought, then it grew into a pressing truth she couldn't shake off. Alexis noticed her heart race when she saw that his blinking wasn't just a simple yes or no signal. It all happened so fast, too sudden and way too planned out. It looked like a series of dots and dashes, a quiet plea from a man who had lost every other way to reach out. That moment hit her so hard she had to lean on the kitchen counter to keep from falling. Drew used to be a Navy SEAL. He'd understand Morse code naturally, just like a native speaker picks up the rhythm of their own language. If he were truly in danger, something urgent and real, this is exactly how he'd try to get someone's attention. And Alexis just walked away. She had left him alone with Willow, the same woman who had shot him, and the one she now thought was capable of much worse than just violence. The guilt started to creep under her skin, cold and hard to shake. She kept telling herself she didn't know, didn't understand, but those reasons didn't bring her any peace. She couldn't stop thinking about Drew blinking frantically in that quiet room. For the next day, Alexis couldn't think about anything else. She tried to concentrate on her work, on taking care of Scout, and on the political pressure around Drew's congressional seat, but her mind kept drifting back to that hospital bed, to those eyes silently begging her. She started looking into Morse code quietly, practicing the patterns and comparing them to what she could recall. The more she looked into it, the more she was sure Drew hadn't been blinking without reason. He had been trying to send her a message, but she never picked up on it. The thought that he might have been trying to send out an SOS, the simplest and most well-known distress signal, made a chill run down her spine. What if what she saw wasn't just communication, but a cry of desperation? What if she was the only chance he ever had? As Alexis began to understand more, the weight of responsibility settled on her even more. She knew Willow well and could spot when she was trying to manipulate someone. There was something about Willow's attitude the day she visited Drew that felt off to her, too controlled. Almost like she was trying too hard to protect something. She seemed a little too quick to brush off Drew's communication as just mechanical and harmless. Now that Alexis thought it over again with a bit more doubt, it seemed like Willow was protecting Drew rather than really looking after him. Keeping him out of sight isn't the same as actually helping him. The thought made Alexis's stomach churn. If Willow could shoot Drew once, what might she do now that she thought he could blow her cover night after night? Alexis couldn't sleep. The image of Drew's blinking stuck behind her closed eyes. She couldn't stop thinking about it. It haunted her like a puzzle she had to figure out before things went too far and couldn't be fixed. Whenever she shut her eyes, she saw Drew lying there by himself, stuck in a body that wouldn't move anymore, just waiting for her to finally get the message he'd been trying so hard to send. She imagined the fear he went through, the feeling of being stuck and the rush to act. The more she thought about it, the more she was set on not letting her fear keep her quiet this time. If Drew was in danger, she knew she had to be the one to find out. Nobody else seemed to notice. Her mind raced more as she recalled a chat with Scout from years back, when the girl had eagerly shared how her dad was teaching her basic Morse code patterns. Back then, Alexis just laughed and thought it was a cute way for a dad and daughter to bond. That memory hit harder this time. If Scout had caught something in the way Drew blinked, something Alexis had quickly brushed off, would she have figured? Cheated out right away. Did she realize her father was reaching out for help? Alexis could feel that possibility pressing hard on her chest. Alexis started quietly gathering information, feeling a mix of fear and guilt. She asked gentle questions, kept a closer eye on Willow, and noticed every little detail that didn't quite add up about Drew's condition. She thought about finding Kai and Trina, knowing they already had their doubts about Willow. If others were feeling uneasy too, maybe they could help her find the truth before Drew's chance to survive slipped away for good. The more Alexis looked into it, the more she saw just how alone she really was. Willow was watching everyone. Drew was running out of time. What troubled Alexis the most wasn't that she had misread him, but the worry that he might try again, and this time, Willow would be the one to notice first. She pictured terrible situations where Willow found out Drew was trying to reach Alexis and decided to make sure he could never speak again. The idea caught Alexis off guard and left her gasping. Drew had gone all in just to find her once. She couldn't ignore him again. Her fear turned into an obsession, driving her nonstop toward the truth. Alexis realized she was stepping into risky ground, but she also understood something else. Once you send a message, it keeps resonating until someone finally listens. Drew was the one who sent her that message. She had become the only one who could understand it and the only one who could save him, whether she wanted to or not. When Kai finally told her what he suspected, something inside Alexis changed, not slowly but with a sharp snap. Like the last piece of a dark puzzle sliding into place. Kai's voice shook as he shared his worries, the odd entries in Drew's medical chart. The small but clear signs that Drew's so-called stroke didn't match up with the symptoms he was supposed to have. And the coldness in Willow's voice whenever someone asked too many questions. He couldn't ignore his instincts as Drew's intern any longer. When he quietly said he thought Willow might have helped cause Drew's collapse, Alexis felt a sudden wave of fear that almost took her breath away. Because all of a sudden everything Drew had been trying to say with those frantic blinks finally clicked. And it was terrifyingly clear. From that moment, Alexis was caught up in a new obsession, one that felt hotter, darker, and way more dangerous than the fear she'd known before. It wasn't only the guilt over missing Drew's message that weighed on her, it was also knowing that Willow was still out. There unchecked and hidden, getting braver with every day that went by. Willow had put up this flawless front as the ideal wife, the grieving widow ready to turn her loss into a run for Congress, but Alexis could now see the cracks beneath the surface. She noticed how carefully Willow crafted her lies, the slight shake in her voice that seemed practiced, the warmth in her smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The whole thing was meant to fool the entire city. But Alexis was one of the few who saw the predator lurking behind the act. Every time she talked with Kai, she felt even more sure about it. He talked about things he hadn't felt comfortable saying out loud before, how Willow stuck too close to Drew's room, how she quietly but clearly took charge of the nurses, and how she showed a flicker of panic whenever anyone tried to check on Drew's neurological condition. Kai said he noticed signs of sedation that didn't line up with what Drew was supposed to be getting. But at first he ignored them out of fear or kind of doubting himself. Now that Alexis saw the link between Drew's blinking pattern and his SEAL training, the truth couldn't be ignored. Willow wasn't just looking after her husband, she was trying to control him, shutting him up. Alexis knew that playing it safe wasn't an option anymore. A fire burned in her chest, driven by anger, regret, and a strong urge to protect both Drew and Scout. Alexis felt a rush of anger she hadn't experienced in a long time when she pictured Willow hiding behind her political law ambition, standing just steps away from the congressional seat while her husband was stuck, drugged, and left alone. It brought back the side of her that had been through courtrooms, personal ruin, heartbreaking loss, and the toughest moments in her own mind. She had this part of her that just wouldn't sit back and let unfairness go unanswered. Alexis started getting ready for a fight, even though she didn't quite know what it would look like. She pulled together her notes, wrote down everything she could recall, and went over her talk with Drew in her mind until she knew the timing of every blink by heart. She looked over his Morse-like message, her fingers trembling as she tried to make sense of it in the stillness of her living room late at night. Every new discovery pushed her closer to the moment she knew was coming. She would face Willow, reveal who she truly was, and tear down the risky mask she had built so carefully. But along with this new determination, something else crept in, an obsession that kept tugging at her mind. Alexis couldn't fall asleep without picturing Drew's eyes, silently asking her to understand. She couldn't move through her house without feeling like Willow was hiding somewhere close, silent, and watching. She had the uneasy feeling of being watched, even when she was by herself, haunted by the thought that Willow might already sense her rising suspicion. The more Alexis found out, the deeper she got caught up in a psychological fight she never meant to be part of. She still wouldn't give up. She was tired of being scared, tired of being controlled, and tired of coming up with reasons to keep quiet. Drew wasn't just blinking by chance. Kai's information wasn't just a coincidence. And Willow's behavior wasn't unclear anymore, it was straight up predatory. Alexis understood that calling out someone as cunning as Willow would stir up a huge mess in Port Charles, dragging families, alliances, and political goals into total disorder. But she also knew it was a storm worth letting loose. For the first time, Alexis realized that it wasn't only about saving Drew, it was about stopping whatever Willow was planning to do next. The idea of Willow actually getting political power, all the while covering up her crimes with a mix of charm and sympathy, was something I just couldn't stand. Alexis was set to make her move. She was ready to take off the mask. Willow might not have known it, but the first move in this quiet battle was already made. What happened next was anything but subtle. That wouldn't be a safe move. It was the moment everyone had been feeling come for a while. Alexis Davis was finished second-guessing herself, and she wasn't about to cut Willow any slack anymore. Now she was ready to face her. And when she finally showed up, Port Charles was never quite the same again. Willow spent weeks telling herself she could keep it all together, the lies, the manipulation, and the delicate mask she put on so easily around Port Charles. She thought that if she stayed stubborn, talked loudly enough, and got rid of the proof fast enough, She could change the story before anyone found out what really happened. She held on tight to the idea that she was in control, but that started to slip the second she felt Alexis getting closer. Now those cracks were spreading quicker than she could fix them. For the first time, Willow could feel the burden of what she had done closing in around her, choking her with a truth she had never wanted to face. It wasn't only that Drew was drifting away from her grasp, it was that her whole world, the one she had built and kept perfectly tidy, he was starting to shake because of everything she'd tried to keep under wraps. At that moment, Willow realized she couldn't escape the consequences she had brought on herself. Acceptance settled in slowly like a cold fog creeping under her skin. Once it was there, she couldn't turn away from it. She had crossed way too many lines, messed with too many lives, and let ambition eat away the last bits of who she used to be. As she saw how her actions were affecting Alexis, Drew, Scout, and even Michael, Willow finally understood that the monster she was scared of wasn't out there. It had been inside her the whole time, just quietly getting bigger. She started out trying to keep Drew in check, but it slowly turned into something darker than she ever meant. Each time she gave another desperate dose or told another lie, it dragged her deeper into a place she couldn't really explain or defend anymore. The secret she wanted to hide was coming out stronger than she expected, and Willow felt trapped as everyone around her started to see through the lies she had built. Now, every quiet murmur in the hospital hallways seemed to carry a hint of doubt. Every time Alexis looked at me, it felt like I was being blamed. Every time she was with Drew, a deep sense of dread washed over her and she couldn't hide it. She realized the story she had been holding on to was falling apart, and with it, her final shot at getting back the life she'd been pretending to keep safe. Willow didn't find peace in accepting what was coming. Instead, it sparked panic, a raw gnawing fear that seemed to eat away at her from the inside. She knew she wasn't just struggling to keep control anymore. She was battling a flood of truth that would crush her as soon as it came to light, and that's when she knew her ending was already starting. The story she wanted to tell about how she thrived, took control, and put her family back on track was slipping away from her like ash. Every change she tried just seemed to make things fall apart faster. Her choices weren't just ideas anymore. They were real and pressing down on her, closing in like a noose made from her own ambitions. Willow accepting the truth didn't save her. It actually sealed her fate. She felt a cold dread deep inside, realizing the painful ending she tried to dodge had already been set the moment she picked control instead of honesty, manipulation instead of love, and silence instead of being human. And now the last part of her fall wasn't just something that could happen, it was for sure going to happen.